to read to you some words of wisdom. We often use the First Nation version of the Bible because it speaks the language that a lot of us can appreciate. And this comes from Matthew 6, verse 26. Look to the winged ones who soar on the wind. Do they plant seeds and gather the harvest into a storehouse? No, but the Great Spirit from above gives them plenty to eat. Do you know the Great Spirit cares for you? Can worry add even more step to the length of your life's journey? I'm telling you not to be troubled about getting enough to eat or drink or what to wear. Is eating, drinking, and clothing yourself all there is? Does your life not have more meaning than this? And again, that comes from the First Nation version that we often like to use. How many of us have sat at the beach and watched the pelicans with amazement? Probably just about everybody. When they, what I call dive bomb into the ocean to get their food, they're just beautiful creatures and the way they just float. They're magnificent birds to watch. But I have recently had a personal experience with a very special pelican named Elsa that I will get to in just a few minutes. The earliest pelican fossil on record is a 30 million year old skull that was found in France. So pelicans have been around a long time. Paleontologists have also uncovered younger material from places like Germany, India, Kenya, Peru, Australia, and yes, North Carolina. Today, there are 8 living species, and you can find some of them dwelling on every continent except Antarctica. Their fishing skills are pretty spectacular. People mistakenly think they store food in their pouch, like a lunchbox, but that's not true. The large fibrous skin pouch that dangles from a pelican's bill is called the gular pouch, and it can expand and contract. And the lower jaw bones are capable of bowing outward, so it can use that pouch as a fishing net. The pelican is a keen-eyed predator that can spot a fish swimming under the ocean surface from 60 feet above. Once a target is spotted, the pelican plunges into the sea, bill first, at high speeds of 45 to 50 miles an hour. It's a dangerous stunt. But they have adaptations that help them. They have air sacs, kind of like we have airbags in our car that blow up or fill up once they're starting to hit the water. And many pelicans, as I said, don't dive bomb their prey. They just scoop it up while they're treading along in the water's surface. To increase the chances of success, the birds occasionally form hunting parties. They gather in a U-shape and beat their wings on the water to corral fish into a tight cluster or drive them into the shallows, making sure that everyone eats. Every year, something weird, number 21, something weird happens to the adults. Breeding season for American white pelicans is March to early May. When it arrives, a broad, flat, yellow, or orange horn appears on the upper bills of the sexually mature birds, both male and female. At some point in May, that fibrous structure falls off to be replaced with brand new ones the following season. Pelicans have played a surprising role in Christian art. In medieval Europe, it was believed that whenever food grew scarce, a mother pelican would intentionally stab herself to the breast with their beak and then use the blood to feed the babies. It's a noble idea, but it's only a myth. But regardless, the myth of bloodletting pelicans struck a chord with Christian artists who compared the gesture to the sacrifice Jesus made. Thus, the motif became widespread throughout Europe in the late medieval and Renaissance periods. Slide 43. The pelican has been described as a comically elegant bird. And this is a photograph of pelicans on Salton Sea in California, where the Canadian pelicans usually migrate to in the wintertime. It has a big bill, a sinuous neck, and a mammoth wingspan as it glides above waves gracefully with the wind and fog. And it lives in excess of 30 years. So the pelican has a rather long life. The pelican can teach us a few lessons. They share responsibility. I just told you how they would gather in the U shape and flap their wings to corral fish to make sure that everybody eats. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could do something to make sure everybody can eat? What's most interesting is that the leader bird in the flock changes throughout the flight. According to study, coordinated flights in birds is achieved by every individual leading for a while, dropping back, and following. So many of us need to learn this lesson, sharing the load, sharing the responsibilities. I know there's times I myself have needed someone to help me share the load. We all do, and we need to be there for each other. Pelicans take calculated risk. It's a dangerous stunt, fishing and diving headfirst into the water from a height of 60 feet or more, folding their wings back and plunging into the sea. And the air sacs cushion them as they hit the water, and they turn to the left to protect their trachea and esophagus as they plunge. How often do we step out and take a risk? How often do we put ourselves in perhaps uncomfortable situations? We need to. We need to be more risk-taking, and we need to step out of our comfort zones. There's a wonderful myth on the Outer Banks. Have any of you been to the Outer Banks? It's one of my favorite places. There's a restaurant there called Black Pelican. Have you been there? It's wonderful. If you go, be sure to go to the Black Pelican. It used to be a lighthouse station a long, long time ago. And it was, before that, a telegraph station. And as a telegraph station, it was the place that the Wright brothers went to telegraph that they had flown. So it's a very old structure, but it has been renovated, fixed up, it's lovely, and it's now a restaurant. But there is a story about a black pelican. When it was a life-saving station and the fierce northeasters of the area blew in and the seas became treacherous, rescuing people in boats was sometimes almost impossible. Except, the story says, for the appearance of the black pelican that appeared in the night to guide them safely home. Effortlessly, the bird guided the men through grinding storms and turbulent waters to the sinking vessel and struggling survivors. Such a simple gesture provided a desperate sense of hope and security to those whose chance of survival seemed impossible. Yet, because of the bravery of the black pelican, such life-saving efforts were possible. Many did survive, only to pass on to generations their sighting of the black pelican leading them at midnight to safety. Ancient legend of this faithful bird extends back to the Middle Ages, when the pelican was regarded as a symbol of love, charity, and sacrifice. And even today, there are Coast Guard members that say they have seen the black pelican. Found in every continent except Antarctica, pelicans have a lot of symbolism in a lot of different cultures. It's a symbolism of prosperity, of good fortune. A pelican crossing your path is a sign of good luck. It might be a good idea for us to consider incorporating some of their characteristics. 25. Now, I want you to meet Elsa in just a minute. But first, listen to this quote. Resilience is accepting your new reality, even if it's less good than the one you had before. You can fight it. You can do nothing but scream. Or you can accept it and work to put things back together for something even better. In October of 2020, John Riesbeck, who you see, I guess the top part, well, you can see him there. Do we need to cut the lights down? No. Okay. But you see here, took his usual walk out to Frank Lake in Alberta, Canada, outside of Calgary. Frank Lake is a bird sanctuary in Alberta. It's looked over by a group of people who are bird watchers, detectors, and photographers. In the winter, it is a very treacherous walk. The gate is locked up, discouraging people from entering because of the treachery, the ice, and the snow, and the frigid temperatures. In the spring, however, Frank Lake teems with hundreds of American white pelicans. Number 26. And there is Frank Lake. But in the later summer, they migrate to areas in Southern California. I showed you a picture a minute ago. In October of 2020, when John reached Frank Lake, he observed one lone pelican still there, 27. And that's Frank Lake in the winter. No one was quite sure why, but upon further observation, they noticed that the right wing was bent, 28. And all of these pictures going forward are pictures of Elsa that I'm talking about. They're photographs that John took. When she tried to fly, it bent down to the water. So this year, this winter, is the third winter in a row that one lone pelican has had to stay behind, unable to migrate because of a hurt wing. No one knows how the wing was hurt, perhaps a coyote or an eagle. They decided to name her Elsa, after the character in Frozen, because she seemed so strong that the freezing weather didn't bother her. Number 29. And for a while, the first winter, Elsa was not alone. She had a comrade friend. They named him Sam. So there's Elsa and Sam. Looks like they're having a conversation. She and Sam toughed it out together that first frigid winter. And we remember, we're talking temperatures 30 below zero. Sam eventually disappeared, so no one knows what happened to Sam. But this was a great spot for Elsa. There was fish in the lake. There is a high Prussian carp population there that provided her food in the winter. Elsa could not fly, but there were so many carp that she could sit on a rock and lean over and use that bill to catch her fish, even though she could not fly. And at Frank Lake, there was one little area that would continue to be open water. 29. And that's Elsa and Sam. When it got very cold, that area would not freeze due to a pipeline with streams from the Highland River at the nearby Cargill plant. It was one small area that never froze. Elsa found that one small area, and she would hunker down in her blanket of down feathers to stay warm. Many people thought that the pelican should be rescued, but others argued against that because they felt the open water area with the carp being plentiful there in the lake would allow her to survive. They also feared that the bird would be stressed and the wings further damaged by an attempt to rescue her. So they all finally agreed that this was the best thing for Elsa so she could hopefully eventually migrate with all of her friends. However, if water levels got lower, that could affect the water not freezing if the water level went down. Therefore, the conditions were monitored all winter. Thanks to her human friends and a healthy online following, she wouldn't spend another winter alone. She was constantly watched from a distance. And my friend John, that I showed you the picture of, would trek out there every 2 or 3 days to check on Elsa. And had anything been wrong, they would have gotten a rescue party for her. But here's a creature that's just trying to survive, even when snow is blizzarding and it's minus 30 degrees. She didn't give up. She snuggles down in her feathers in a small part of the lake, now all alone, that doesn't freeze and just hangs on. There's a little island where the lake doesn't freeze. Slide 30. And she would sit on that island and hunker down because she has a view of the entire area and could watch for predators. And as I said, John made the trek, along with a couple others, to Frank Lake to check on Elsa. I have been to Frank Lake in the summer, but couldn't identify Elsa because there's so many other pelicans there. But the winter, I kind of backed off because it's a long hike and very treacherous. And I just did not want to fall and have an accident while I was visiting Calvary. But when he visits Elsa, he says it is so peaceful and so quiet, just sitting there looking at that beautiful bird, all hunkered down and peaceful in the corner of the lake. He said he forgets about the rest of the world and just thinks about her. Biologist Chris Fisher says Elsa's ability to survive Alberta's harsh winters is a great feat. Frank Lake is the ideal place for her to overwinter, despite she still has life-threatening, challenging elements. John details what he can of the pelican's flight to everybody that reads his blog. He tells his audience about the weather, the powerful wind gusts, how warm or how frigid Elsa looks, perched on her little island, and how her wing seems to be doing. The hope is that if she remains healthy, well-fed, and well-groomed, that maybe this fall she can make the trek back to the beautiful beaches of Southern California with all the other American white pelicans. Elsa's story is exciting because it connects people to nature. She has found and offered meaning to a lot of people who have been following her plight. She has inspired people that they too, we too, can get through those blustery days in the darkest of storms in our life. 31. With every update, John says her wings are getting stronger. And this is amazing to me. He often sees her taking time each day to exercise that injured wing very slowly up and down. And then she'll exercise both wings. But he says she seems to focus on the injured wing as she is exercising. 32. She stretches her neck and opens wide her pouch, almost as if she were doing yoga. Or she looks to me like she's conducting an orchestra. Each time she flies now, she seems to get a little further. 32, 33. There she is, stretching her pouch. Because remember, for a while, she was just fishing where she was. Now she's got to get ready to do some more serious fishing. 35. And of course, with fame comes responsibility. So the bird group did put up a sign erected to protect her from humans. This American white pelican has an injured wing and was unable to migrate in the fall. It is otherwise healthy and well-fed and has begun to make short flights. Its health is being monitored and a rescue plan will be activated if needed. When John goes out, he says he respects her space. She is, after all, a wild animal. He stresses she's visible enough to get beautiful photos of, but he doesn't approach her or try to get near her little island because it's just not appropriate. 36. There's her little island in the snow. Doesn't she look lonely out there all by herself in this frigid cold? She really doesn't need to be rescued, he says, and doesn't need people in her face. She seems to recognize John when he comes and will often stare at him as if acknowledging that he is there. 37. In the snow. 38. And there she is sitting on top of a muskrat house. 39. And that's a picture he took when she was staring at him as if saying, I see you, I know you're here, and I know you're a friend. And he says that sometimes she will float by him as close as she can get to the shore from the ice and look at him, acknowledging his presence, as if she's saying, thank you for checking on me. If she continues to fly better, she may migrate. We hope in the fall we will all cry when we don't see her again. It seems as if in the spring she begins to watch for the other pelicans to return. 40. They come mostly back from Southern California, and she seems like she does watch for them, that she's anticipating that they're coming. Once they arrive, it's more difficult to find Elsa among her friends. 41. She has never gotten the bump on her bill, so we believe she is not of mating age yet, that she maybe is quite young. But in the summer, if they would see one without a bump, they kind of thought that must be Elsa. But once she matures, that won't be the case. We don't know if she's male or female, but for the summer months, she is no longer alone. It's just totally inspiring to see a creature out there who can withstand the elements and maybe overcoming some of the greatest difficulties anyone could encounter. And maybe, just maybe, she'll get to migrate again. But through all of it all, Elsa never gave up. Let's go back to the quote. Resilience is accepting your new reality, even if it's less good than the one you had. You can fight it or do nothing, or you can work and try to put things back together for something that's even better. And I believe that fits Elsa. She accepted the new reality, and she did fight it to stay alive. She worked to put things together for something that was good. To her, to get herself into a better reality, there are days when John says she looks very sad. And there are other days when she looks very happy. 43. All of her friends, she's there somewhere. 44. And sometimes she looks as if she's dancing or conducting an orchestra, as we saw in a picture before. But always Elsa fights. This may be the last times we see Elsa, because when her friends arrive, we might not be able to spot her again. But we are all hoping that she can get back to those sunny beaches of California for next winter. But in our hearts and minds, Elsa will always remain as a symbol of resilience. And I hope she will for you too. Number 44. And there she sits. A calendar has been done about Elsa, and you can look at it with all of the pictures. And some people have done some artwork of Elsa. But these are the words that are on one of the paintings that describes her. Let's think about ourselves. Persistent, persevering, patient, gritty, determined, tenacious, adaptable, remarkable, flexible. That's hard sometimes. Resilient, independent, strong, steadfast, and just plain tough. And I have been so inspired by Elsa, and I'm going back out to Frank Lake this summer, that I have a necklace that I wear this has a story to it too. It says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." But I got a little pelican charm and added it to the necklace. So when things get tough and I feel like I want to quit, just take this necklace and I think about Elsa and what she has taught us, surviving as a pelican in sub-zero temperatures in a little tiny area where the lake doesn't freeze. I hope you'll remember Elsa and think about her too when times get tough.